Hi guys, it's Dr. Pam and I'm here with this week's burning question. So during our aging series, last week we talked about when to change the diet. Rather than continuing that, I'm developing a quiz for you so you can take the quiz, know where your dog is in the aging index. It just kind of simplifies things. And then today we're going to talk about what you feed your dog as they age. But in reality, this isn't just about aging dogs. This is about every dog. Because if whatever path of aging that you choose makes all the difference. And aging begins from the moment we take our first breath, right? So doesn't it make sense then, if you start going down the healthy aging path earlier than life, then you're going to be in a healthier, more vital state towards the end of your life and more active. And a good illustration of that's what we've been talking in my email list is the difference between Buck and Keenan. Now, Buck was 13 when I first started seeing him. He couldn't move. He was overweight. He had massive muscle loss. He had a bunch of disease issues, chronic ear infections. He had bladder issues. He had, like I said, he was overweight. He also had major digestive issues, which is what brought him to me because he couldn't receive anti-inflammatories for his pain. And he had massive osteoarthritis. It was so painful to watch him walk. And we started with him when he was 13. Now contrast that to Keenan. Keenan is now 10 and he barely has a hair, a little white hair on his face. I mean, he's a border collie, but he barely has that. He is vibrant. He is mentally acute. He has good musculature. And despite a traumatic disc rupture, that boy lives a more vital life at 10 than Buck did when he was 10. All right? Now, what's the difference? It's when you start. We started Keenan at 8 weeks of age, and he was deficient. That's what we're seeing. Puppies coming in deficient now, okay? But Buck, we started at 13. Now, we improved his life, and he had a great 3 additional years for which his owner is extremely thankful. But there were things that we couldn't change. He lost weight. He had more musculature. He was more energized. He played again. All those things, but there were changes in his tissues we couldn't reverse. It was too late. So wouldn't it be better to choose the healthy path of aging? So this video today is for all of you. And we're going to talk about what you can do today. I listened to what Whitney said yesterday. She said, I really want to start feeding my dog a cooked diet, but I don't even know where to begin. So today we're going to begin at the very beginning, and we're going to start with something simple that you can do. The first thing that I need to tell you, though, is that whole 25-cent disclaimer thing. What I'm giving you today is for educational purposes only. It's not intended to treat or diagnose your pet. If your dog has any specific issues that you're trying to overcome, you really do need to see a veterinarian to do that. This is just for education. But I'm going to tell you, all the dogs in my practice, at the very end of my practice, were the ones that were the most challenging cases with multiple disease processes. I was the veterinarian of last ditch, right? Until they came in and then they'd come back with their puppies, right? So understand that you can use these concepts in the aged dog and get a better quality of life. But it's not just for aging pets, okay? So conventional wisdom says that whenever you're aging, you get fat. Well, I shouldn't say you, let's say the dogs. The dogs get fat, they get constipated, they have health issues like organ issues, and then they have muscle loss. So the commercial pet food industry responds by doing like 4 major things. They do a lot of other little things, but the 4 major things is they increase fiber, they increase grains, they decrease protein, and they supposedly increase to a higher quality protein. Why? Fiber helps if you're overweight, it makes you satiated, you won't eat as much. It also keeps you regular so you don't have constipation, because that's a big thing in aging dogs. The grains actually make up for the lower of protein, and they use it as a caloric density thing. It's less calorically dense than protein. But what happens with grains is they're highly inflammatory to dogs and cats. Dogs and cats don't have the anatomical or physiological means to digest grains, so they don't digest them well, and it creates an inflammatory state. Add on to that all the grains that we use in the pet food industry are actually the cast-offs from the human industry, and they're the ones that you'll read about next week that are molded, and that's where mycotoxins come from. And I'm not just, it's not a supposition here. There's a lot of studies to back this up. I'm happy to share. Moving on. So the higher quality protein All they do is change the pictures on the bag. You saw the label yesterday. If you haven't, go look for it, because they had chicken that looked luscious chicken breast on the bag. That was not what was in the on the label at all. So just understand that when Buck came into me like that, he was on a commercial senior diet, okay? So what can you do now? How do you increase the nutrient density that's accessible and utilizable for the body now, today? And I'm going to tell you, the first thing that I tell everybody that comes into my practice are toppers. Everybody should be on toppers, even if your dog's on a raw food diet. Why? Organ meat. Organ meat is super important for healthy dogs. Now, if you have disease issues that don't tolerate fat or don't have, if there's protein issues, you definitely need oversight of a veterinarian. But I use toppers, and I use a lot of different ones, and I'm picky. So let me give you some that I use. One of them that I use is Stella & Chewy's Carnivore Crunch. Now this has organ meat in it. It also has the regular meat. It'll have turkey when it's turkey, obviously chicken when it's chicken. It also has beef, and I believe there is a fish still. I can't remember. I use turkey, and by the way, I use this in my cats. My cats eat toppers as well. Now cats are notorious for not, accepting anything that you want. Basically, they own the house, you pay the bills. So my cats can be super picky. Dogs, not so much. So I often will use this as well. Now this is small batch. Now I love small batch. Do you think I love small batch? I love small batch. Small batch, this is freeze-dried chicken hearts. They have those, they have beef hearts, they have turkey hearts, they have little treats called bites, they have sliders that are freeze-dried, they also have a raw food, and then they have a lightly cooked food. So I really love small batch as a whole. But if you don't really know where your dog is in the aging index, because I'm developing a quiz for you to make it easy, but you may not know that yet, you want to stick with something that's more freeze-dried, air-dried, or even dehydrated, some of the dehydrated. Because it's more digestible. You lose a little nutrient density when you change from a raw state to one of these states, but you don't lose a ton, and you increase digestibility for those older dogs. So I love small batch, everything that's small batch. I would not recommend jumping into a raw food diet today, okay? Because we need to know where your dog is. This next one I use Ziwi Peak a lot. This is an air-dried diet. I've used this company since they came to America, probably about 10, almost 11 years ago. I love their diet. They've increased the different flavors. We have beef available, we have chicken available, and then they have their lamb and venison, and then combinations thereof. I like the Ziwi Peak. I also like real meat diet for dogs and cats. This comes in little jerky treats. It's also an air-dried diet. I also like Vital Essentials. I love their freeze-dried diet. It's very dense in organ meat, especially the beef. And I use it a lot as a topper. They also have other toppers where they take that formula and they blend it to where it's just powder that you can do this over the food to make it easier for you, because the little kibble, they're not kibble, they're what they call niblets. Their niblets can be kind of hard. So at any rate, I really like their dog food as well. They again have a raw food diet, but I'm not advocating you jumping into that when we don't know where the digestion is, okay? I also use, I said Ziwi, real meat. I use, Raw Bistro. I love Raw Bistro. They have a raw food, but they also have a dehydrated that I love using as a topper, because they've made it into little cubes and you just drop it all over the top. When you put on toppers, you must decrease your base diet. You must, because toppers are really calorically dense. They have organ meat. But for an aging pet, you're going to need more B vitamins. You're going to need more minerals that come in a natural format. Synthetic stuff does not work. You need natural format. So these toppers are amazing for that. Next week, we're going to talk about disease issues and what considerations you have with disease issues. Again, not diagnosing or recommending treatment, but bringing an awareness to you about what you do with specific diseases. But start here and let me know how it goes. Okay? Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.